say. But don't forget the role I used to play. When you feel defeated, like your heart's been cheated, just think about me like before.
Hello, and welcome to the Leen Show. My name's Lee, that's Kathleen, with a brand new logo, right?
Brand new logo, yes.
Brand new logo.
Happy
Episode 7 of the Leen Show. Here we are.
Here we are.
Kathleen, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be back in the US of A. Feeling super
Where
American.
were you?
Oh, I was just gallivanting around Europe, me and my two besties. A quick girls' trip to London, Paris, and beyond.
Okay.
It was amazing, yeah. It went by way too fast. But I didn't realize that August, so European summer actually starts in August. So they go to school all the way up through August. So mid to end August is like the most expensive time to go. So we had to like basically shorten our trip a bit because if we would have stayed literally one extra day, it would have been like an additional $1,000 to fly home. Like, no joke. Like, end of August is literally peak travel season or peak whatever summer season over there. So, packed a lot into those 4 days. Saw the Eiffel Tower. I got a crepe by the River of Seine. I didn't see any mimes. In Paris, but I bought a vintage Playboy, which I got absolutely scammed. So I bought, and it's kind of like New York City Times Square vibes, where there's all of those tiny little like tourist carts selling stuff, and it's way overpriced, but like that's where you're gonna get like your touristy stuff. And they were selling like these vintage French Playboys or like European Playboys. And I was like, oh my God, like that is so cool. Like I'm going to get one of those and bring it home to Sam, my boyfriend. And like, I'll be like, what a cool girlfriend of me to do that. And so I get one from like 1965 because I'm like, okay, like this is super, super vintage. And it was wrapped up in plastic. I didn't think to open it because I'm like, whatever, I'll just give it to Sam. We get home and like basically all of the nudie photos per se had been ripped out. So there's like maybe like one or two pages with, where you see a little something. But other than that, yeah, like all the pages were ripping out. And of course, I didn't realize it, but I gave it to Sam, and like an hour later, he was like, yeah, so I was checking the index, and there's I would say a good section missing here, pages 255 to 3. And I'm like, he literally like did a whole freaking investigation into this and was like, yeah, the whole nude section was missing. So
oh my God,
got scammed in Paris. But no, it was a great trip. I mean, I definitely recommend if you get the chance to go on a girls trip. It was all girls, so it was fun. Our periods synced up, which was classic when you get 3 women together on a trip to Europe. Your parts start talking. So that was that was probably TMI for our listeners there. We might have to cut that, but it's true. And
no, we're not cutting that.
Yeah, okay, we're not cutting it. It's nature, everybody. It's nature. But yeah, one thing I will say, and I wanted to bring this up because this is a comedy show. We're comedians here, at least
we like to think of ourselves as so.
Yeah, we like to think of ourselves as comedians, and I needed to talk about the airplane food, and it's like obviously.
Wait! Just really quick. Sorry. Is this new territory? Like off the top of my head, has any comedian ever made a joke about airplane food before?
No, I don't think so. I had like this epiphany on the plane where I was like, oh my God, that not only is this hilarious, but the world's never ever heard a joke about airplane food before. Like
Finally,
I'm
a new
literally
joke. Finally,
a pilgrim,
a new joke.
Pioneering this territory step by step. No, so it was the first time I had ever experienced airplane food. Lee, I don't know if you've ever and I by airplane food, I don't mean like the Delta cookies. I mean like a meal on an airplane. You've had a meal on an airplane?
I've flown. So I want to say, is it like 4 or 5 hours is the minimum for one meal, something like that?
So I don't know because I feel like whenever I've flown from Florida to California, granted it's usually 2 separate flights. Like I've never done direct Florida to California, but I've been on like a 4.5, 5 hour flight and not gotten a meal. Like this was the first time I got a meal and the flight was over 8 hours. 2 meals. I got 2 meals.
Yeah, I don't think I took a trip to San Diego and Los Angeles when I was like it was in 2007, so I was like 8, and I specifically do not remember having food or not. I don't think we did.
Yeah.
I think they just serve like snacks to everyone. They're like, all right, peasants, all right, you're not just getting a Sprite today, you're also getting a bag of Sun Chips, a bag of tomato, basil, whatever those Sun Chips are, the red ones.
Yeah.
You know,
garden salsa.
Thank you.
The shittiest flavor.
Come on.
Yeah, Sam.
The shittiest flavor is the original one.
No, dude. Say that the original one, it's literally so simple and salty and good. It goes original, French onion, cheddar, garden salsa, in my opinion. But no, we can't get into this. Back to the airplane food. So the flight over there was a red eye. It was an 8-hour flight and some change overnight. So we flew out at 10 p.m. We were supposed to arrive in London 11 a.m. London time, 6 a.m. Atlanta time. We literally get on the plane and like I'm thinking everyone's going to go to bed right away. No, the lights don't turn off. I'm like, what the hell? Like, it's about to be midnight. The lights don't turn off. They keep the lights on for the first 3 hours, or first 2.5, 3 hours of the flight. Midnight, I'm like, what's that smell? The freaking women, these air, whatever they're called, what are they called? Flight attendants. These flight attendants are literally serving a meal at midnight. So I'm like, okay, like, I was expecting to sleep on this plane, but I'll just check it out, see what the meal is. Literally mushroom ravioli. I don't know if you peeked in my notes and saw that, but literally mushroom ravioli.
Delicious.
And I'm like where and who in their right mind would ever think that would be an appropriate meal to serve on a plane? Like, mushrooms are a pretty controversial food type. Like, wouldn't you agree that you don't just eat mushrooms? Like, you are either like, I like mushrooms or I don't really like mushrooms. And it's not a very popular thing to eat or a popular flavor. Like, what? Like, why not just plain ravioli?
In America, everything you said is 100% true. In the UK, I'm not as sure. They have some interesting food habits over there. I'm sure you realized in your 4 days.
Definitely some different food habits over there. Absolutely. And I guess you're right. Maybe the flight attendants were playing into the country that we were flying into cuisine-wise. But it was just disgusting. Like, it was truly just disgusting. And then I would say within 45 minutes that we're landing, like, we have 45 minutes left on this plane, they're serving another meal. It was clear. It was just full obligation. It's like nobody was asking for this food. Nobody was hungry. It was stinking up the plane. I can't imagine what it was doing to the bathrooms. 45 minutes, like, we're about to touch down after this 8-hour flight, and they're serving breakfast again. It is a English muffin, the worst type of bread, an English muffin with just a microwaved egg, no cheese, nothing, just literally microwaved egg on the English McMuffin, and it smelled so much like feet, it was astounding. And I just, I was like, wow. Growing up, I'd heard stories, I'd heard tales, I'd heard jokes about airplane food, and you'd think that, flying Delta, that they would step it up, but no, I mean, it was just as nasty as anybody could have imagined. And I always wonder in situations like that, where are the PB&Js? Where is the simple turkey and mayo, ham and cheese? Like, a simple burger, chicken nuggets even, chicken tenders. Like, if you're able to make a mushroom ravioli, you can't whip up a burger and fries? Like, you can't microwave some chicken tenders?
In a flight from London to Atlanta, because you flew out of Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
It was a direct?
Of course.
Maybe that's what they serve going the other way.
Yeah. So no, on the way home, it was, oh my God, wait, you're so right. On the way home, it was a chicken pesto with yellow rice, which wasn't terrible. And then it was a choice, which I neglected because at that point I had a horrible flight. I was disgusted by everybody. I had misanthropy, which we've talked about before. I had misanthropy on the plane. So because because of my severe case of misanthropy, of course I couldn't eat. The second option, again, 45 minutes before we land, was a giant king-sized egg roll, or it was a spinach and feta like croissant.
Oh.
So those options were a lot. Yeah, those options were a lot better.
Okay.
A
So
lot better.
do you let's flip the switch a little bit. Do you think if you were a resident of the UK and you went to Atlanta to vacation and then you flew back home, would you be saying the opposite? Like they served us some bullshit croissant whatever, but then finally on the way back I got a mushroom ravioli, which is what I've been wanting this whole time.
Oh my god. Disgusting. I mean, maybe they do.
It's worth the
Maybe
thought.
they do. I will say, though, what everyone was so shocked, I had better food in London than I did in Paris. Like, way
Depends where
better
you
food in
go.
London. Yeah, no, and I think it's like, it's not London that has, like, the bad food. I think it's, like, what people's idea of what British cuisine is. And, like, a couple staple British dishes that get the bad raps. Like, the fish, or, like, the fish sticks. So the most popular meal is, like, fish sticks, beans, and then a piece of white toast. And then it's like the classic English breakfast, which is basically tomatoes, eggs, beans, and toast, and sometimes
Mushrooms
bacon.
too.
Oh, freaking kill
There's
me.
also
Yeah,
mushrooms in
probably.
that.
There was literally
so.
a breakfast place in the airport, like when we were flying home, and we walked in and we're like, oh, are you guys still serving breakfast? And she literally looked at us and was like, yeah, but classic English breakfast only. And, like, she knew that. I literally immediately turned around. I was like, no, thank you, immediately. Like, I didn't even try to hide. Like, it was rude of me, but, like, I didn't even try to hide. I was like, immediately no. Like, I'm not staying for the classic English breakfast. Immediately no. I was like, I will starve. I will literally starve.
Did you have one traditional English breakfast, though?
No, of
Throughout
course not. Absolutely not.
Their bread is
Absolutely
actually really, really good. They do, like, a fried bread with English breakfast. That's delicious.
Oh,
and I only know
really?
that because Calvert's has it. So there's
Oh.
a British
Pub.
it's not really a pub. I guess just call it a pub. There's a British
Yeah.
pub down a couple miles down the road from where Kathleen used to live and where I live. And they do like British, I don't know. I think it's like they take like the few tolerable aspects of British food and then just throw a bunch of America on it.
Yeah.
So they do like a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich with fried bread. That's like actually very good. Like the bread, it's like a
Monte
croissant.
Cristo almost.
Kinda. It's like a croissant with it's like a savory, not a croissant. It's like a savory beignet kind of. It's like a big
Ooh.
savory beignet. There's no powdered sugar, but it's got like that crunch.
Yeah.
It's very, very good. And I think that's the same bread they have on English breakfast. But beans disgust
sound
me,
good.
as I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I've talked about on the show or not. Like, I don't do beans, so immediately no.
No beans or just baked beans? You're a
Nope,
no
nothing.
bean guy?
No bean.
Hmm.
I wish I could be, because like when I go to like let's say like Chipotle or some place like that, I mean I'm just missing out on free protein for this stupid mental hurdle I have where I just can't eat beans. It's
Damn.
not great.
Even
but,
like the mash, like the beef and cheese burrito from Taco Bell, where
Like
it's just
refried
beef
beans?
cheese. Yeah, like refried beans.
No, I think I ate refried beans on accident one time, and I was
Mm.
like, it's different because it's all texture for me. The texture
Mm,
is
that's fair.
god awful, and it sends a chill down my spine when I think about biting into that little mushy bean and like the
Yeah.
little mushy parts of it like spew out in your mouth. Oh my god. Oh my god.
gosh, that's funny.
Terrible.
No, I did not know that about. I didn't know that. I did not know that about you. We got a bean hater over here.
Huge bean hater.
All
And
right,
one of our
should
very close
we-
friends is a bean lover.
Who? Oh, Will.
Will.
Oh God.
Should I
I
tell
saw
this
the
story?
funniest. Sure. I was gonna say I saw the
was just
funniest video. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one time I watched my friend Will. We had barbecue catered at one of our friends' houses for his birthday, and this was hours after it was catered in. He was taking cold pieces of white bread and then using it as like a spoon to scoop up beans and eating it. He was
Ooh,
doing that.
yeah.
And
A
it
trencher.
made me throw up.
That's what that's called, a trencher. They do those in Game of Thrones, where you basically like take like bread and you just like, typically it's like the end of a piece of French bread, and you like take the bread out and then you just dump like anything liquid in it, and it's like, there's your trencher, like here's your meal.
That sounds not very nutritional, not very high in nutrition.
Yeah, well, it's
Nutritional,
Game
is
of
that a
Thrones.
word?
What? Yeah, nutritional. Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
yeah, nutritional. It's very nutritional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not in Westeros though. In Westeros, they're just eating to survive. They're not thinking about their health. The literal Night King is coming. They have bigger things to worry about than their health. Let them have their trenchers.
They have what, White Walkers, right? They got White Walkers coming for them.
Yeah, White Walkers and Whites. The White Walkers are the leaders. The Whites are like the zombies that are just blindly following them.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm on book 4, everybody.
Nice. So Kathleen, we've got a very special segment coming up right here, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do.
We it's the first guest we've ever had on the Leen Show. I'm very excited to bring you a conversation with former The Ringer writer and former SB Nation writer Rodger Sherman. He's a very accredited, very influential college sports writer and beyond. He's written about the Olympics. He's written about he's a big obscure sports fan. We didn't really get into that in the interview, but he's a guy I've been following. I didn't get to fucking tell him this, but whatever. He's a guy I've been following for a very long time on Twitter. He's very funny, very nice guy. The conversation we had was great. Please, and he's starting a new project called Rodger, where he recently quit his job at the Ringer to travel across the country and watch a different college football game every weekend. It should be a really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like a man's dream, or maybe just anyone's dream. Like, it's just like not having to work, or like, you know, he's working, but it's like, it doesn't feel, you know, whatever. A really cool thing he's doing. If you want to support him on his journey, or to get, you know, see some of the content he's making during that process, he has a Patreon, patreon.com/RoadRodge, RODGE. And here's the conversation. Check it out.
Hi, Editor Lee here. Now, our conversation with Rodger starts a little bit abruptly because we got some pretty good content before I was able to actually introduce him formally. So that's the first thing that you'll hear. What I ask is, are you excited to go to an active construction site? And I say that because at the time, Rodger was about to go to his first game in his journey, which was Vanderbilt against Hawaii going to Vanderbilt in Nashville, and Vanderbilt Stadium is still currently under remodeling while they're playing games inside of it. So that's the first thing I ask them. Just a quick editor's note so that it would make a little more sense. Okay, great. Here's the interview. You know, how often do you get to visit an active construction site like you will tomorrow?
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm so curious to see how much that stadium is actually built. I'm hoping that there are, like, you know, dumpsters and construction vehicles just scooping, excavators just like going during the game, like on critical third downs.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I need like a jackhammer going off like right before a kicker takes a vital field goal.
You know, for the opposing team, I mean, might as well take advantage of the fact that your stadium is an active construction zone. Like, if other teams are allowed to make like weird mascot noises ahead of a big third down, why can't Vanderbilt just, you know, decide to do some detonations for their whatever they're building? I'm actually not even 100% sure what they're building.
More seats?
More
I don't know,
seats.
because it's kind of like if you look at the picture, it's like 80% surrounded by seats, and then it's just nothing. So Kathleen, right now, Vanderbilt's building like a new stadium in Nashville.
And the game is
like,
tomorrow.
And the game's tomorrow, and it's not particularly close to being done either.
Yeah,
Classic.
I mean, because clearly they need, like, clearly the one thing I always think about Vanderbilt football is, wow, they need more seats. Like, this stadium needs to be at least 80,000 fans for Vandy football.
I think that's what they've been lacking. Like, they're like, if James Franklin had that stadium, like, I think he might win an SEC title. You know, I think
the Vandy dynasty, the Van dynasty. You can one word it.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we could just go ahead and start now.
Yeah,
guys,
you can use some of that. We had good content.
All right, no, I will. That was great. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So, you're actually the first guest we've ever had. So
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna go on the fly. Yeah.
Can I get like a plaque?
Absolutely.
Once are you wearing a home field shirt
I am.
right now? Because
Yes.
I am. Yeah.
Well,
I got my Miami Hurricanes.
Are you
Dang, I missed the
are
memo,
you a
guys.
Canes guy or?
Yeah. So I'm one of the few people, like the middle of the Venn diagram, where I grew up a Miami fan, but I'm a Florida State graduate because I couldn't get into Miami.
Were you just like very unpopular?
Yes. Yes, I was.
Yeah, basically. When it came to that, basically.
And so,
So,
part of the interesting, so I'm doing this project. I'm going around the country. I'm going to all the different stadiums, all these ones I've never been to. And that's sort of an interesting thing because, like, Florida State seems to have a very active, crowd environment. And Miami, they play in an NFL stadium.
Right.
Rodger? Are you
And they
saying
bus
that
their students there. You got to take a bus. I went to my cousin graduated from Miami, and I went there for a game day, and it like the stadium's so far away from campus, so you have to like be bused. I think it's like an hour to get there.
Yeah.
So
Coral Gables
it's just not as easy.
It's nowhere near. I forget what the name of the like municipality that Hard Rock is in, but it's nowhere near it.
Yeah.
No, I'm allowed to say these things because I come from a Miami family. My family is of Jewish and Cuban descent, and my aunt Roslyn claims to have helped Vinny Testaverde cheat in math class, and that's
Nice.
I think you can really say that the entire of the early 90s and eventually into the 2001 hurricanes, that doesn't happen without Roslyn.
Wow. That's a hell of a butterfly effect, isn't it?
Yeah, because if Vinny Testaverde fails those math classes, who knows what happens to Miami? It would be the biggest scandal in Miami football history for sure. They haven't had anything else on that level.
Miami certainly, and especially in the 80s, 90s, that was not a place you went to play school.
Yeah, no.
It just wasn't. Anyway, so Rodger Sherman, thank you so much for joining us. Formerly of SB Nation in The Ringer.
Mm-hmm.
As you talked about just a little bit a second ago, you quit your job at The Ringer
Yes.
about a week ago today. Is that right?
Last Friday was my last day, yeah.
Yes. So, and then a couple of days later, you announced your new project, Road Rodge. They can follow you on Twitter at Rodger.
Yes.
Great at, by the way.
Very lucky that my name was misspelled. A real boon to my the bane of my existence until internet handles became available. For most of my life, I was just mad that there was a weird extra letter in my name.
Now it's your secret weapon.
Now it's my secret weapon. Now I can get Rodger at Rodger. And meanwhile, you guys
awesome.
have to I'm sure that
Jump through hoops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even for the Leen Show, we were can't get more original than that. But yeah, we had to do some doctoring to get some of our handles up too.
Yeah, I think there was a Twitter account from 12 years ago that was at the Leen Show that hadn't tweeted since 2012, and it's dude, and then we couldn't get the Twitter, so I think our Twitter is something ridiculous. We'll probably start using it now, but we really focus on the Gen Z social medias. Not that Twitter isn't, but TikTok and Instagram. But anyway. Thank you so much for coming on. So I guess the first question that I had was, you're a very experienced college sports writer, basketball and football. But one of the things you said in your announcement video was that there's a lot of college football, like the things that make it so special that you haven't experienced in person. I think you cited SEC rivalry games as one of the things.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it didn't come across as like, oh, my companies didn't send me to like these things, because like it's pretty common in this day and age for like a blogger to cover these games and to have a job, but to not actually go to the games. So that's what I've been doing. I've been kind of just watching the games and writing about them from my house. And, you know, like I was just saying, you know, the stadium atmospheres and the cultures are so unique. And that's kind of why I wanted to give this a shot, to go see it and to, you know, get a better understanding for the sport that I've been writing about for so long.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess the question would be, like, as of right now, before you experience like SEC rivalry games, you know, construction sites in Vanderbilt, etc., whatever, what is it that makes college football so special to you? Like, what specifically about it's got a lot of unique aspects to it, the size of the sport, how many teams there are, the craziness, like I think, you know, the classic, I don't know if it's a Bud Elliott quote or not, but it's like the stupidest thing will be the thing that always happens in college football. The most ridiculous outcome is the most common one. So what is it about this sport that draws you in so much?
I mean, you're hitting on all the factors. One is just like the complete absurdity of it. That's like it very, you can know who's going to win the national championship, but you'll never quite understand the way that it's going to get there. And I think like when you talk about the size of the sport, like each of those teams is different. And like, I find that I can talk to someone, and if I know what college football team they care about, I already know like 8 things about them. Like just things they care about, things they value, things that they will get extremely angry if I bring up. And that's true to a certain extent in other sports, but like in college football, people really value like X thing about their school, like this, like the thing that makes it different from the other team across the state. Like, and even though, you know, they might have grown up in the same place, they think that they're different in this way, in this way, in that way. And like when you deal with pro sports, it doesn't really have that aspect. It's sort of just like if you're from, you know, Milwaukee, you like the team from Milwaukee, and if you're from Cincinnati, you like the team from Cincinnati. It's not like there's this like in-state, in-community cultural divide where the people you live closest to are also the people you hate the most. It's like it's just got a different like feel to it in that way.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with all that. It's about, you know, specifically in like the example I thought of was like the Pony Express, the 30 for 30 about SMU. One of the things I really learned watching that like years ago when it aired was how the old what's the name of the old the Big 8, right?
Yeah.
In Texas, how it was like Baylor, Houston, SMU, A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, and they're all like very close to each other geographically. And they are all just die hard for their teams, and they absolutely hated, like you said, hating your neighbor. Like the people who are literally 2 doors down from you, they wear a different color, and they think they are completely different. They are completely different people than you as a Houston fan or you as a Baylor fan or anything like that. And also true in Florida. And I would say the other thing too is like you have the people, it's almost like a high school football in this way where you have these relatively small communities who just don't really have a ton. This is my experience growing up in the South, is I don't really have an NFL team because I live in Pensacola, Florida. The closest team's the Saints. I don't really care about the Saints. The next closest would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know, it's like I don't really have a connection to Jacksonville either. But, you know, when I would go to Tallahassee, I mean, or I would go to Tuscaloosa, I mean, like that's the show in town. There's really not much else.
So like
going on.
You're from the Panhandle and you're a Miami fan and you went to Florida State?
Yes.
I'm learning.
Am I unique?
I already just like I'm very intrigued by this, and like that's not something you could say about like other sports where you could just say where you're from and the team you root for, and I'm like, something strange and interesting happened here.
Yeah, I did. Would you like to know why I'm a Miami fan? Like,
sure.
The only reason why it started.
I'd love to hear both of your reasons.
Well, Kathleen's a Florida State fan
Mm-hmm.
for like a very, very traditional reasons. I actually hold on. So her parents went there. She grew up going to Florida State games every year. I mean, they were always good, so it's like a relatively easy team to root for. The height of, you know, the end of the Bobby Bowden years into the good Jimbo years, you know.
Yeah.
There was never really a bad team fielded. But that's where I come in because I'm a Miami fan. I've watched several bad teams they fielded. But from my memory, this must have been in the mid 2000s. I was, let's say, 4 or 5 years old. I just have this very distinct memory of watching TV, and I want to say Miami was playing UNC because I remember the colors. And I just remember thinking, those are like really cool colors.
They're cool colors. That's a big mistake. You got hooked by the colors.
They're cool colors, and the logo, the old Hurricane logo, is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, UNC had cool colors too.
Definitely.
No, they did.
That's what I was
they
thinking.
did. Sure.
Yeah.
Just something about the green and the green and orange really drew me in. And also, what I was gonna say was what makes this even funnier is my parents are diehard Alabama fans. Diehard.
Very true.
But that's not cool. Like, I want to be a rebellious middle schooler. I think I was in the 4th or 5th grade when I really, really started paying attention to Miami and, like, being a diehard. But, like, man, you know, like, I'm watching Greg McElroy and I'm watching Mark Ingram and I'm watching those insane Marcel Darius, you know, big Mount Cody. Watching these Alabama teams just dominate every week. I'm like, what's the fun in that?
And you're like, I got to get me some Ja'Cory Harris.
I gotta have, dude, Travis Benjamin. Like, that's my boy. I was talking to someone last night. I was wearing this Miami shirt last night, and he was like, "You're a Miami fan?" I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what year are you born?" He said, "1998." He goes, "Ooh." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a fair reaction."
Yeah, you missed that classic person born in the 1990s experience of feeling like you've missed a good thing and you're just getting in on the decay and world falling apart experience.
Yeah, I would totally. And I think also what really hurt my fandom is, so specifically, I like really started paying attention in 2009 because Labor Day, Florida State, Miami, they play that classic game. You know, I want to say, was it EJ Manuel incomplete pass, like the 5-yard line at the very end? They win by 1 score. That game really locked me in. But what happened like 4 months later is the U came out, was the second or third 30 for 30. And I watched that. I'm like, oh my God, what if this happened again? Like, it could happen again.
And
it has not happened again.
Looking at my watch, it hasn't happened yet.
No. 2017 was a cruel tease. I honestly wish that wouldn't have even happened. I think it gave me a little too much hope. They say hope's what kills you. But you know, you gotta move on. So that's I can't take enough Miami talk, even though there's a very bad Miami insult stat I'm about to say. So one of the things that a few of our listeners are very into is, you know, I think we have a lot of casual sports fans, but they're not specifically diehards into the sport. One of the things about the sport is there's way too many damn teams. So like you have to almost make it your job to like know the coaching hires and players going which way. So as far as a team that throughout the year you think will be let's say a profitable Vegas team, just one team that they might not play. It's a tough question, but in terms of like a team that I think you think might outperform Vegas expectations, something like that. What's one team that our viewers can look at just on a week-to-week basis and just kind of have their eye on?
That's a great question. I
have the 5 most and least profitable teams in 22. If you're curious,
who is the most and least?
Would you like to know the least profitable team?
Let me hear it.
It's Miami. Of last year.
Yeah, that means it's time for
they went 2-10.
It's time for the rebound. It's time for the.
Yeah, I mean, it can only go up.
I'll say this: I'm not planning on doing a lot of betting while I'm out on the road, just because like different states have different things. But
Of course.
today, on the way to the airport, I flew to Nashville and I rented a car here. It was a lot cheaper than renting a car in New York. I decided to just fire off like 5 like college football futures bets just so I have a thing to care about.
Okay.
And I like Oregon State to win the Pac-12 and
Whoa.
yeah, UTSA
Okay.
to win the American in their first year in the conference. And I had one other that I liked. I bet the under on my beloved Northwestern Wildcats winning 3 games. I don't think they're going to pull it off because they have had a lot of things going on.
Yeah. I think my original email was like, we're going to do like a fun guide to college football. So I expected very little Northwestern talk during that time because there's not a lot of fun things going on over there.
It's the least fun thing. It's like a combo of bad football and bad vibes, which, I think the great thing about college football is you generally either get entertainment or vibes. And Northwestern's 0-2 right now.
That's tough.
Well, we'll be the Leen Show will be rooting for him regardless. We'll add him to our rooting list.
You don't need that in your life.
I'll explain later, Kathleen. They had some no-nos happen over there.
Ouch. We hate that.
Anyway, I love the Oregon State bet. I love the DJU 2023 redemption story.
I think I think college football is just changing so much right now. Obviously, like that's not a profound thing to say that conferences are all changing teams and stuff, and like we're losing so many things that are like of the things we just said about like the regionality of the sport and stuff like that. And that's part of why I'm so excited to get out and do this ridiculous project this year, to see all of these like cultures and places before things change. And no school is getting shafted more than Oregon State and Washington State. They're my 2 teams that I like. I want good things for them, and they've been abandoned, and I need them to kick everybody's ass while they still can.
Yeah, it's the last dance for those 2.
It's the last dance.
One last ride. Okay, awesome. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up with. I would be remiss if I didn't ask at least one question about the team's sake, who our logo and many of our listeners are fans of, the Florida State Seminoles. So the only real question about them I had is, a lot of people, obviously expectations are very high. The win total in Vegas is, I think, 9.5. I think if you talk to FSU fans, they'd find that almost disrespectful, because I think the expectation is at least 10-2. So I guess the question would be, regardless of what happens in week 1, because I mean, as you and I both know, like week 1's kind of a crapshoot in general. I mean, neither FSU or LSU played particularly great last year.
That was a
FSU's
great week one game last year.
The schlock was ridiculous. I mean, the multiple missed extra points to lose a game is unbelievable. But I guess, you know, in terms of not a diehard Florida State fan who might have some heightened expectations, from an objective look, going into 24, what would be a successful season for Mike Norvell and the Noles in 23?
I mean, it feels like I kind of have more faith, honestly, in Florida State than Clemson right now, which feels weird to say after the last 10 years. Pretty much everything post Jimbo. But I don't know. If I had to pick between them, I would pick Florida State to win the ACC over Clemson. But I mean, you're asking what will make a successful season. I still feel just like getting back to that level where like Florida State is expected to be in those games is a win. I tend to be a little bit more like lenient about teams, like
sure.
I tend to not be like, oh, you have to win the ACC championship or bust. But like I feel like that opportunity is totally there, and that alone is a really good sign. And I mean, you want to make the most with Jordan Travis, so. I think they can do it. I assume that you're both going to say, of course they're going to do it, and it would be embarrassing if they didn't.
Go Noles.
Well, I'm not
They
actually a Florida State fan, so I honestly
That's
lean
a lie.
more towards.
You're a little.
I
bit
mean,
of a
are you
fan.
going to tell me who I like and don't like? You know,
I think
like
I am. I think I am.
I graduated from Florida State, but I think the fandom ends there. I think my other fandom that I've put a lot more time and blood, sweat, and tears into negates that one. But still, regardless, I think the transfer portal has been so particularly great to FSU this year that I don't, especially with going into 24, they're not in the Big Ten or the SEC. Who knows if they can keep up such a pace in the portal, because the competition is going to be so much larger. So I think personally, this is the best chance they'll have at the playoff, unless there's a lot of recruiting buzz right now for FSU in 24 and 25. So maybe they just have a couple great classes and reload and they're fine. But I think this is the roster that the program has been looking at for a couple years.
Yeah.
And then they even just added to it with, getting Verse last year and Coleman this year. I think this is make or break. I mean, people forget in 21, they lost to Jacksonville State. Also, by the way, we went to high school with the guy who caught the Hail Mary at Jacksonville State. Fun fact. But going into, after that and after the start in 21, people were, just about ready to fire him. And he turned it around, and 22 was a success relatively. I just don't know how much patience the program's going to have if they are not at least if they lose the ACC championship, it would have to be like a classic against Clemson. Like if they lose, and a very close game, I should say at least. Like if they lose that game decidedly, let's say it's like a 2017 Miami situation where they just get embarrassed. And I don't think that's going to happen because this team's far better than that Miami team. But I think expectations are going to be a little unrealistic this year, for sure, just because Florida State fans are so anxious to finally get back to where they think they deserve to be. But yeah, I see the Zoom's got less than 1 minute.
Yeah, I gotta go hop on to something else. So
totally. Well, really appreciate the time, Rodger. They can
thank
follow
you so
you
much.
at Rodger on Twitter. You have a Patreon as well, Rodger. Fuck.
And that's me not paying close enough attention to how much time was left on the Zoom call. So as I was trying to outro him, it got cut off. So yeah. Thank you, Rodger, for coming on. Follow Rodger at Rodger on Twitter and Rodger Sherman on Instagram. And Road Raj is his Patreon. And yeah. So sorry about that. I will work better at it in the future. Here's the rest of the show.
All right, there's a story that has been very much at the front of my mind the last couple days because I think it's one of the most fascinating possible murders / mischievous acts I've seen in quite a while. It's one of the most maybe evil things that like I've seen happen recently. Yeah. Here's the story. A woman in Australia served a lunch to her in-laws. There was 5 members of a small Australian town who came to a woman's house named Erin Patterson. Sorry. Named Erin Patterson served her in-laws and her children a lovely beef Wellington lunch. Now, beef Wellington, if you're not familiar, is not only quite a heavy dish for a lunch, surely.
Very heavy.
But is a dish. It is, if you don't know, it's like a piece of beef that's coated in a pastry, and there's like a mushroom, like a black mushroom spread inside of the pastry. Well, no detriment to maybe the quality of the food. Apparently, the mushrooms in the beef Wellington were poisoned with a special mushroom referred to as the death mushroom. And 3 people who were at the lunch are dead, and the 4th one is currently fighting for their life. I don't know why you're laughing. This isn't really funny. I mean,
it's
like, people
funny.
died. Kathleen, people died, okay?
No, it's literally not funny at all. It's just the way that you're telling the story. No, it is kind of funny. It is kind of funny. Because it's like, you don't just stumble upon the death mushroom. Like, capital D, capital M. Like, that's not something that you just stumble upon. And, like, I know that there are people out there, because I've seen them on TikTok, like, there are definitely foragers out there, like mushroom foragers, people that do research on mushrooms and actually go out and look for them, clean them, cook them, whatever. But, like, you don't just trip over the death mushroom. Like, you gotta go looking for that thing. Also, beef Wellington for lunch. It's like, there are only a couple dishes that I can name that have mushrooms in it. So it's like, if this was a murder, if this was calculated like it seems, you have to plan out, okay, what am I going to cook that's going to have mushrooms in it? And beef Wellington is just such a suspicious choice, especially for the middle of the day over there in Australia.
Maybe they had to like fight a kangaroo on the way there and really worked up quite an appetite. I don't know. I just feel like you probably just burn calories in Australia just trying to survive. Like, you walk outside and there's like an 8-foot tall animal who's decided it wants to kill you today. And then you got to run away, right, exactly.
A dingo stole your baby.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Is that from terrible. Kangaroo Jack?
I've actually never seen that movie. Maybe, I mean, if I saw it, I was young. I was so young, I don't remember it.
For the record, I'm not drinking Dasani. It's other water put into a Dasani bottle. For the haters out there, I wouldn't just drink a Dasani.
I would hope not.
For the record,
battery water. Dang, did they change their style? That doesn't look like show me that again. Oh, huh. Yeah, never mind. That is a Dasani. I can see how thick the plastic is through the camera.
Oh, Dasani changed their logo. Well, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest, it doesn't make a sound. Would anyone really know if they changed their logo?
Not if it's Dasani's brand.
Probably not. But this lovely woman, Erin Patterson. Now, it's one thing to dislike your in-laws. Is that fair to say? Mm-hmm. You don't, you choose who you marry. You don't choose who's in your family, especially who's in your extended family. So it's one thing to not really get along with your in-laws. It's one thing to have beef with them, no pun intended. But it's a whole nother thing to take it to another step where you spend hours and hours cooking arguably like one of the hardest dishes to perfect. I mean, like restaurants struggle to cook a very good beef Wellington. Mm-hmm. And to use the allure of like, oh my God, she's making beef Wellington. Oh my God.
For lunch.
We have to go to that for lunch.
For lunch.
You know, the allure of like, hey, you know, I can get their names. It's in the article. Heather, Gail, and Dawn. Now the three of them are unfortunately no longer with us because they suffered severe food poisoning and liver failure, I believe, from the death mushroom.
Yeah.
Now, the DM. So, you know, it's a very interesting thing. It's a very scary thought, no, to like have to like go over to if you're from the in-laws perspective, like going to, you know, I'm blanking. What would that relationship be?
The daughter-in-law?
The in-laws, daughter-in-law, thank you.
Yeah.
Like you're going to your daughter-in-law's house for lunch, and then 12 hours later, you're 6 feet in the ground. Now, that's kind of crazy. Now, I haven't seen the menu, but is that what happens in the menu? Spoiler alert. Is that what happens in the menu? Do they get poisoned like this?
Oh, is there a movie called The Menu?
I'm going to act like you didn't say that.
Is there? Am I
stupid? It's got like Anna Taylor-Joyce and the guy with the big nose, the white guy, who's the lead chef. You don't remember this movie? It came out last year. I haven't seen it. No, I don't know who Anna Joyce is. He kind of looks like a human Voldemort. No disrespect.
Oof.
But anyway, I have here. I don't know if you've seen this or not because it's not in the article that we shared. But the Australian press actually confronted her the other day and did a brief interview with her. Would you like to watch that interview?
Oh God, please.
Yes,
Aaron Patterson.
I think it's Aaron Patterson. I think it's quite illuminating. Just you know, I don't know how many of you are body language experts out there, but just pay attention to what's going on here.
It's a tragedy what's happened.
Can you tell us about the meal?
Immediately rubbing tears that aren't there. Glasses come off.
Devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Don. Don is still in hospital. The loss of Ian and Heather and Gail. They were some of the best people that I've ever met. Gail was like...
Take your time.
Gail was the mum that I didn't have because my mum passed away 4 years ago. And Gail's never
From
been
mushrooms?
anything but good and kind to me.
We don't. I mean, Ted. Maybe she poisoned her too.
Check
I don't know.
Check it.
She poisoned her own mom.
Okay. Check what her mom died from.
And Ian and Heather were some of the best people I've ever met. They never did anything wrong to me, and I'm so devastated about what's happened.
Can you tell us?
And the loss to the community, and to the families, and to my own children who've lost their grandmother.
Now, how many? I've counted 5 times that she's already wiped her eyes and looked at her hand, and there's nothing there. She's not crying. They're crocodile tears. She's not crying. I don't look. I mean, this shot right here is very illuminating, is it not? Look at her face.
Yeah.
It is dry as a bone, and she's like, "I'm so sorry."
It's
Like
also like, why do I feel like this wouldn't happen in America? Like, I love how the Australian press, like, if they're wrong, like, if she did not do this, like, she just lost, like, 4 of, like, the closest people in her life, and they're straight up, like, in her carport, like, why'd you do it? Like, tell us more about the beef Wellington there, Aaron. Like, tell us more, like, you know what I mean? Like, they are really, like,
doesn't it seem like kind of normal? They're like, oh, another one? Oh yeah, this woman, you know, she cooked dinner for her in-laws and they all
They're
died.
like, we get it. They're good people. They never did you any harm. Tell us more about the beef Wellington. Tell us about the beef.
How was it a homemade pastry, or did you use like a Pillsbury? You know, what was the dough like? What was how did you make the dough? Was it a yeast-based dough? You know,
And, like,
you know, these are the
like,
questions we need to be asking.
Yeah, and where did she get the mushrooms from? She obviously didn't buy them at the store. Like, was there any?
That's what she
does
claims.
She explain?
That's actually what she claims. Yes, that's what she claims. Initially, I don't know if it's in that video or not. I just switched it off, but that's you get the point. That's what she claims, is that she bought them at a grocery store and that they were tainted. They were tainted specifically with the most deadly mushroom possibly in the world. A mushroom. So we haven't said this yet, so we should probably throw this in real quick. To my knowledge, I believe the way it works is it's one of the few toxicity poisoning things where you can't actually cook it out or boil it or anything. So even if you cook it, it does not kill the toxin at all. So it's a prime candidate to poison someone with, you know.
Yeah.
Ukraine take
stumble.
notes.
You just don't stumble upon stuff like that. Just like you don't stumble upon ricin. You know what I mean? Like if someone was poisoned with ricin, like you don't just, you know, stumble upon it unless you're that kid from Breaking Bad. And then you stumble upon it. Did you watch Breaking Bad? Let me guess. No.
I've seen the
Let
first
me guess.
episode.
No. Classic Lee.
I like
Classic
the
Lee.
part where the guy like harasses Walter Jr. and then Walter beats him up. And then I remember the scene where he puts the gun in his mouth and it jams and he's in his undies. That's about it's about the extent. Oh, and Jesse puts chili powder in his meth. That's my Breaking Bad recap.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Say my name. Say my name.
Do you think Erin was saying that as she was standing over their hospital beds?
Well, it so again, back to the beef Wellington. Like, so her kids survived, obviously, and it was like, oh well, the kids don't like mushrooms, so the kids scraped it off.
No. She served a different meal to herself and her kids. That's what it is.
Okay, so there it is. That's the other shoe.
I'm not sure if it was a different sort of beef Wellington or if they had something entirely different. And then she's like, well, this is my special beef Wellington.
Yeah.
That's...
Imagine you're like, all right, honey, you know, we're going to Erin's house. Erin invited us over for lunch. Like, so nice for just normal day. Oh, I wonder what Erin's cooking. Well, it's lunch, you know, so it's probably chicken salad, or maybe it's turkey sandwiches. If we're lucky, maybe it's a light pasta. Oh, I just got a text from Erin. Oh, okay. She said she's serving beef Wellington. And then they show up, they sit down at the table, they're served beef Wellington, and Erin and the kids are served what? What'd I say earlier? Chicken salad?
Grilled kangaroo.
Anything else? Yeah, grilled roux. A grilled roux steak. Like, how odd. And what was the conversation like, you know? Like, how odd to be invited to a luncheon, I should say. Not a lunch party, a luncheon. And to sit down to find that half the table is being served one thing and half the table has been served another thing. Like, at what point was someone like, hey, I don't want this beef. Give me one. You got another one of those roux steaks you can toss on the grill for me?
She goes, nope, only had, sorry. The store only had 4.
Only 3, might.
Yeah, crazy. I think that should have been the first red flag. I think, and I wonder too, like, the little bit of research I did on the mushrooms specifically, I found that, like, it's sort of, there's not like a baseline level of toxicity or poison. Like a few people have eaten it and survived it because like it wasn't as strong necessarily. Now also the article we read was from about a week and a half ago, so the other person fighting for their life could also be no longer with us at this point. So yeah, you know, if you ever think out there you're like, man, there's just this one member of my family I just can't stand.
No, dude, scratch that. If you're ever served beef Wellington for lunch, run.
A homemade beef Wellington.
stand up and run right the hell out of there, because if someone's serving you beef Wellington for lunch, they do not want anything good for you.
Well said. Fair enough. Fair enough
All right,
indeed.
that's it, guys. Bye.
That's how we're ending it? So you want to just
No, I don't
you want to just like end the whole episode right there?
No.
That's about as graceful
I'm
as an
just
ending
kidding.
as the Rodger Sherman interview.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thank you again, Rodger. We had a great time.
Yeah.
But it did
was
end
great.
abruptly. Yeah.
Anyway, look, if you ever think you have a rough family situation, the grass is sometimes greener on the other side. Let's just put it that way, right? Let's just call a spade a spade. You can dislike a cousin, a sibling, a parent, whatever. They're not trying to actively poison you because they're not a psychopathic killer, allegedly.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to say that in Australia or not, like the alleged, whatever. Allegedly, an alleged cold-blooded culinary-based killer. Can you imagine the tension at the table? Like, do you think she's like so cold-blooded that she's just sitting there like zero emotion? Or is she
like,
sitting there
"Something
like
off?
sweating?
Something's off? How's your beef Wellington tasting, everyone? No, she was probably just cool as a cucumber.
Because I'm
Cool
trying to
as a
think now,
goddamn
like,
cucumber.
I would think so too. Because right now I'm trying to think like, you know, this will probably be a movie at some point. Again, the menu could have already been that. Neither of us have seen it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But like this specific story could absolutely be a movie, a short film of some kind. So in my director head, I'm trying to think about how I would shoot this. And I'm trying to how would I build tension in the situation, right? Because like the viewers know, I talk with my hands. I'm not, okay. I don't know what to tell you. But
No, I was like conjuring up my own. I was trying to I was mixing up my own little story where it's like her dream was always to go to culinary school. And she goes to this really fancy culinary school, and it's so weird that like the final assignment to graduate is to make none other than a beef Wellington. That is the final
Wow.
assignment to graduate culinary school. And she learns how to
Yes.
make it. And then that is like, you know, but she gets away with it because nobody supported her in going to culinary school. So nobody ever asked her about it. Nobody knew. So they never showed interest in her passion. So they never even knew that she learned to cook the perfect big Wellington. So that was the, you know, should I say, that was the sled in Citizen Kane, whatever it's called, whatever the thing is, you know, the thing in the story. And,
oh my
know-
God, what is it? What is it called? It's got some stupid name.
It's like the-
oh my God.
you know, it's like the thing. We always do this.
It's fuck me.
The first
Forget
person,
it.
if we ever bring on staff to the Leen Show, we're going to hire one person, we're going to pay them a shit ton of money per hour, and they're just going to be sitting in, hopefully a studio we have someday with a thesaurus, and they're just going to be flipping through trying to figure out what words we're going to use. But no, so she goes to culinary school, she learns how to make the perfect beef Wellington. Nobody knows that about her because nobody ever supported her in her culinary journey. So she reaches her breaking point, she decides to kill the family that loved her but just never supported her, and they never saw it coming.
A MacGuffin. That's what it is. It's a
MacGuffin,
MacGuffin.
yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
term
it's a
for like
MacGuffin.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking too, like, specifically the scene at the dinner table. Obviously, like, there's probably a scene of her foraging the mushroom, her, like, putting it in, you know, a montage of her preparing it. But, like, I'm imagining, like, one of the family members, and maybe even the one she wants to kill the most, like, they, you know, slice in, and she looks over, and they're like, they're like cutting off the mushroom part of it. They're like slicing it off. They're like, I don't really like mushrooms. And she's sitting there like, shit, like, how am I
Yeah.
gonna? And she's like, no, like, trust me, it doesn't taste like mushrooms. It's actually really good. And she's like, just selling this, like, no, you gotta try it. And then there's like a slow-mo shot of him being, or them, you know, whatever, being like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And they just take like a little bite, instant cut to like them in a hospital 12 hours
in the
later.
hospital, yeah.
Yeah.
Or they're like, Aaron, like, do you want a bite? And she's like, oh shit, like, what's my excuse?
Yes. She's
Freaking
and like it could be the
Wait.
same person. They're like, oh well, if it's so good, like, do you want a bite? And then maybe she has to like fake that she took a bite and like spit it out or something.
Yeah, I said the wrong name. Aaron Patterson.
What did you say?
I think I said Aaron. Cut that though, because I think that's just someone I work with. I meant to say Aaron Patterson.
Okay, I'll bleep that.
Yeah,
We
just
can do
bleep it.
that. We have the technology to do that. Well, anyway, that is a story that I cannot wait to get some updates on. I'm not sure exactly how the Australian law is written with this. It's a little bit terrifying for the
What
idea
law?
of her getting out, or like her having
what-
no charges.
What law? What law? I genuinely don't think they have that many laws in Australia. I don't think their police force is really a thing.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Australia's
If this
freaking
happened in
crazy.
America, she would already be in prison, right?
If this happened in America, she'd already be dead. Like, she would have already been, like, somehow, like, transported to Florida, tried in Florida, and then sentenced to the death penalty. Like, you
Okay.
know?
Sure. Yeah. I'm not saying no
gosh.
because there's no precedent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. This was a extended episode of the Leen Show. We didn't do one last week, so I guess it all evens out.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider liking and subscribing. I think we'll probably clip out the Rodger Sherman segment on its own, so that'll be like the first clip of the show to bring in some of Rodger's great following and the platform he's built over the years. Again, thank you so much to Rodger Sherman for coming on. He really did not need to do this. We are like not big at all, and he was like super cool, and I just emailed him and he was like, yeah, I'm down. This word for word, he just said, yeah, I'm down.
He's
So
so cool.
really cool guy. We really appreciate that. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Leen Show, and if you're listening on Spotify, please consider giving us 5 stars. But that's all I got.
Check us out on YouTube, too, if you like to watch the episodes. We're on YouTube as well. Especially check out Rodger's segment, because he's a super cool guy, and we like talking to him.
Definitely. It went really well. He kind of roasted me. He told me he was fascinated by my fandom. He said, you're from the Panhandle and you're a Miami fan and you're an FSU grad. It's like, yes, those are all true.
You are a bit of a unicorn in that way. Like, especially
Yeah.
to someone in his position, I'm sure he's just interested in general about how that came about.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you to Glazed Eyes for letting us use their song Way Down off their upcoming album as our intro outro song. Check them out on Spotify and play us out. Have a great one, guys.
Peace.
Lose it all.